Sorry, Clive.
This meeting is being recorded.
Can we share screen, Clive? Is it possible?
Yes.
Am I able to share my screen?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Can I say good evening, everyone? Can I ask you just to unmute unless you're speaking for now, please? Welcome to this session, which the title of this one is Financial Wellbeing Practical Solutions. I don't think any of us will on this call would be unaware that over recent times we've had some difficult financial challenges. We've seen inflation that was at one point little more or less zero, now 10% and above. There are some of us who have lived through some of those prior times when inflation has been really bad. Some of us would have been around for the previous crash. What we also know is that financially, our community, the African and the Caribbean community, is one of the most severely impacted communities when we have these difficulties. And of course, if you are having financial difficulties, that has other broader impact on your life. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have the session, because we have got experiences in our community that can also be helpful in charting a way forward, in ensuring that we can maintain the best of well-being in the circumstances. So this evening, I'm not going to say very much more. I'm going to hand over in a moment to Amidou, who's going to primarily host this session. And we have got Angela Wells, who's also joined us and has got a wealth of experience from the Citizens Advice Bureau work that she's done over a period of time, and she will be sharing some thoughts with us, and from previous experience, some really helpful tips that will be useful as we go forward. And then I'll probably come back later on. So for now, I'm just going to hand over to Amidou. I see he's already got his slide up. So Amidou is the Vice Chair of the Watford African Caribbean Association, and also is an accountant by training. But of course, this is not about financial advice, it's about us learning from each other as a community. Over to you, Amidou.
Thanks, Clive, and apologies everyone. For some reason, the gremlins got to my machine. As you can see, even the camera is not functioning properly today. So apologies for keeping you waiting.
Amidou, if you wanted to use a slideshow.
Yeah, I'll use this slide in a minute. Thanks, Clive. What I'm trying to do this time around is really, because we find ourselves in an unusually, actually challenging point in time. I say that because all the tools we have as financial advisors, accountants, or whatever, have never actually envisaged us being where we are. So we all find ourselves in a situation where every day our earnings are really being eroded by inflation, but also, as you notice around us, the cost of living crisis has meant, as I cited some time back, that when it gets to a certain point, everybody will want to have that reflected in their pay. So every day we hear the post office, the ambulances, nursing staff, because this is beyond what our finances can cope with. If you stress test your finances and you ask yourself, if I took a 10% pay cut, can I survive with what's left? I wonder how many, or doubt how many of us would say, yeah, they can manage. And that's what it is effectively. Inflation has just eroded our ability to earn. And I don't know about others, but I sense that every time I go into the shops, the prices just keep creeping up. So what I want to do is just make this a two-way process where I don't have all the answers, and I'm glad Angela is around as well, but I would set a scene, and I'm hoping that we will also share experiences, because that's what I think it is now, because every day circumstances change. Some of us learn, some of us discover something new. So we will set a scene and I run through certain things. But what I'm hoping is, hopefully with Angela's assistance in some areas, we'll get to a point where we'll all share experiences, because this is fast moving. Is that okay? Thank you. So I just want to, before I start, I just want to put things to context. I think over a year ago we met and have a brief discussion on the same issue, cost of living, because I don't think financial well-being is even that. It's just how we survive rather than thrive now. So I just want to put two graphs on, two slides on. Firstly, I just want to show, just going to put this down, inflation, for example. So if we look at exactly 12 months ago, inflation was 5.1%. And I remember citing that I thought it'd be double digit, because then I think the Ukraine war had started and things had just started getting really tighter for people. But if you look back 12 months ago, inflation was 5.1%. And some reason in the summer, it just took off. We went in April 9%, and then it just took off to where we are now, 11.1%. So you could see that if you imagine you needed to go to your employer and say, well, to really enjoy or sustain the lifestyle I was actually living or experiencing 12 months ago, I need you to increase my pay by 11%. You wouldn't get it. So effectively what you're doing now is whatever your employer can't sort of make for a difference, you are taking the hit. So if you imagine I was as an employed person, my employer never increased my pay. So I'm sort of 11% worse off. And that's where cutting comes in. That's where savings come in. That's where really managing your finances and your family's finances come in. And unfortunately, nobody's offering anything that makes them stand out in the way of bargains or whatever. You go to the supermarkets, same problem. You go to the petrol station, same problem. You try to strike a bargain on the internet, same problem. So we are all caught up in this one big vortex. So the next picture I wanted to point to, actually, which is critical for all of us. So that if you look at the headline figure, as of today, is 11.1%, and this is inflation. This is general price increases, we know, but one thing that affects every household is this one here. So this is food price inflation. So if we go back to 12 months ago, food price inflation in the old world was just running at just under 3%. So now if you look at where we are, it's 5 times as much. So what we're saying is, on average, whatever you used to buy, let's say you used to buy a Q for 30p or 40p, I notice when I go to the shops now, it's 60 something pence. Yogurt, the same thing, milk products, the same thing, bread, the same thing. So the effect is your food price cost has gone up over the past months, and it's now 16.2%. And the underlying issues behind this as well is, if you imagine, we use a lot of energy to produce, cultivate, and really feed people through food. So every time there is an increase in fuel prices, or the supply chain picks up, or there's labor issues, then what happens is it feeds through. So this is where we are. So on average, you're paying 60% more than you would have been when you go to shop. It doesn't necessarily apply to everything you buy, but in the main, that's the average. So this is just to put things into context. At 12 months ago, 3% was what we're looking at, thinking that's fine, we can live with it. And now we're talking about 5 times as much. So if you really look at both pictures, general price increase 11%, food is costing 5% more than general inflation costs. So you can imagine that you're paying 5% more, you're having to earn 5% more, or take 5% more on your savings to just sustain yourself from a food price point of view. So this is the world we're in. And I think, I don't know for others, but what I've experienced is everybody that actually had advices as to what you do have run out of options. So this is why the sharing of ideas and experiences matter later on. So moving on from the contextual information, I just want to touch on 2 areas. I want to really look at how the recent budget statement really, what it means for us. And then one big area that I thought, particularly this time of the year that we are in, is fuel costs, because a lot of households, I mean, most of your energy costs go towards gas and electric, maybe over 50% of what you spend. Particularly now that the weather is just not being conducive, we're finding ourselves really asking questions and trying to manage that. So I will run through the budget and I'll focus on energy, and there's some few advices around how one can mitigate around those things. And I'm hoping that Angela being around as well, she can signpost us to areas where we can really get, I will not think we'll get full help, but something that will just moderate the pain that goes with these increases, because they are painful, challenging, and your budget is being stretched every month. So I can understand how everyone must feel around that. So I'll look into those areas, and then we'll have a conversation around what our experiences are. Are we okay with that?
Yep.
Thank you. So Clive talked about financial well-being, but I think you can either be financially, if you like, in a reasonably comfortable position if this 4 words of cost of living or 3 words of cost of living is actually below your radar. And in my case, it's not, it's just right in front, and I suspect that goes for everyone else. Hence, I've just said, okay, we look at our well-being when we survive the cost of living crisis. And I think soaring costs are at the forefront of everybody's mind. So with that in mind, I just want to really just take our minds back. So why are we finding ourselves where we are when it comes to what it costs us to really survive? And I revisit some of these points. Energy. So that strikes me as something that goes from just fossil fuel energy, oil primarily, which really feeds into everything we do. So the farmer has to use fuel to really, use the equipment that they need to do. The supermarkets have to use that to deliver as well. So it just feeds into everything we do. And also, as well, the other issue here as well is when you look at farming and all the things they use to increase yield, okay, that's also impacted on as well. So you'll find that we are affected in that way bigger than we care to realize. So transportation costs I mentioned, it is just incredible. I think I remember during the lockdown how fuel prices were just hovering around £1 or just above that, £1.5. And I'm sure when you go back this year, you remember it being close to £2. And now that we hear that OPEC are really trying to cut down on production as well, you'll see the prices start creeping up. And I think also the G7 have imposed a price cap on what they'll pay for Russian oil. So what that means is the people that will not get Russian oil supplied to them will go after the suppliers that are non-Russian, and those suppliers will have an opportunity to increase prices. So don't be alarmed or surprised if you go out to the forecourt and you notice you're having to dig a bit deeper. So as an example, I went to fill my car up, I think some time ago, and I noticed like to fill it up, it was like £5 short of £100, and I don't ever remember doing that. So that's for me my living experience in terms of transportation and fuel costs. The supply chain problems, I think particularly here, they haven't gone away. So you notice, for example, even people waiting for buses in Watford, you can't get a bus driver anymore because I think Brexit has meant the labour supply has been curtailed, and transport companies, they're struggling to get staff. You hear the farmers complaining as well. They harvest, struggling to get people. The NHS, over 100K short of staff. Care as well is the same thing. And certainly in my profession as well is the same thing. You struggle to get people. So there's so many issues going around there. And there's this great retirement thing where the over 50s, a lot of them are sort of, I think now it's close to 2 million, over 1 million. But that's another issue. So how do we get that knowledgeable, experienced section of the working population come back to work? And again, some of this is being tied to the NHS, the fact that a lot of them have got illnesses or ailments that ordinarily, had the NHS been firing on all cylinders, they would get treated and be back as part of the working force. Brexit, we've lived it. Whether it's what we were told, I'll leave it for people to really see that. But what the opinion is out there is Brexit has taken like 4% of our output or the economy, how well it would have done. So if you imagine the economy was powering at 100%, when you take Brexit out, it's 4% less. And if you add to that the fact that trading between ourselves and our bigger trading neighbors have actually been affected by all the tariffs and structural challenges that come into that, it's impacting on us. And Ukraine, yeah, Ukraine is a big exporter of wheat and other agricultural products, particularly oil. You know, you notice how oil prices have shot up in the supermarkets because they're a big supplier of sunflower oil and other things like that. So we're feeling that as well. And also just the fact that that is going on is just meaning that challenges when it comes to the free flow of trade from the area is having issues. So the grain that would have costed us X amount here is now costing Y because there are too many people that need to be fed of a lot smaller supply. And I think Ukraine was a big supply. If I'm right, maybe between 10 and 20% of the world grain supplies was coming from that area. So that has a big impact on some of the things we do. So they used to supply fertilizers as well, which help with the yield and the farmers as well. So I think at some point they were saying poultry prices will rise as much as it's costing to buy meat. So you can imagine all those things go to add up to that 16.1% we're talking about when we looked at food prices. Any questions on this point here? Cool. Okay, can I continue, Clive?
Yes, yeah, carry on, Amidou.
So what I wanted to look at is really, we know we've had two, one was a fiscal event, they call it, was still a budget. And then after the change, we have another chancellor who decided to really stem the tide. But effectively, what we found ourselves is one government came in to be generous to few sections of society by bringing about serious tax cuts, but only helping the minority. And that was made worse by the fact that underpinning that was to borrow to really fill that gap, and the markets did not take kindly to it, and we found ourselves really in a bad place. So subsequently, other people that have come in have decided we need to impress on the markets that we're good cops effectively, will take care of the finances. And that has meant another fiscal statement, which I'll go through just in a nutshell without going into extreme boring detail, just to cap what it means for the average person. So the autumn statement really, in a nutshell, what did it mean? So if you remember, we were sort of looking at energy support plans, which means gas and electricity will on average cost about, they shouldn't cost more than 2,500. But I'm saying on average because it's a cap, but if your consumption is such that your consumption exceeds what that cap is providing for, you would find yourself paying a lot more than 2.5. So just be mindful that it just means you have to exercise some discipline on that. So that was 2.5. And I think what we now have is this new government have come in and increased it by £500 to 3,000. So that'll be from April onwards. But the caveat is 500, as we all know, when you look at your bills, it doesn't mean a lot. So it's still worth exercising discipline on that area just to be on the safe side, because the fuel bills have been astronomical from what I could see. So the other bit is, and I think this is very important, if you remember, we all have income tax thresholds. So on average, so the government would say, somebody who is on the lower rate of tax, or generally everybody, would not pay tax on the first £12,000 of outage that you earn. So what is meant to happen is that amount is meant to be uplifted or increased in line with CPI or inflation every year. So what has happened for people in different tax brackets, the government has introduced a freeze on this. What that means is, in the previous regime, they say, actually, we're making sure that the 12,000 that you're capped to, it would be frozen. It won't increase by inflation or CPI until 2025-26. So the recent statement has actually decided to push that to 2028. So that's another like 3 years. And what that means effectively is every time you get a pay increase, you then are subject to pay more tax because you earn a lot more outside a £12,000 bracket, so you get taxed a lot more. So you wouldn't feel the pain now, but as we go through the gears over the next 3 to 4, 5 years, you'll notice that actually the amount you take home will be less because actually the government has introduced fiscal drag, which means your allowances would never go up for the next 3 to 4 years, but your earnings will go up and then you'll be paying more tax as a result of that. And if you compound that with the inflation that we mentioned earlier on in food prices and also just generally, it just means that that pound will continue to be worth less and less and less going forward. So we also have for families that actually have got assets to pass on, there's this aspect of tax called inheritance tax. So let's say if I had actually gifted, or if I had a family member or children who could inherit my wealth, that 225K is the amount that they will not pay tax on. So that meant, let's say my property was worth 340,000, so they'll only pay 15,000, say. But what the government has done is actually freeze this. Normally that will go up again as well. So they've frozen this. So just imagine, for every year my property goes up by 15% or 15,000. So they'll hold this amount as 325. So whoever takes on that property would pay a bit more tax because the difference between the 25, let's say went up to 400,000 or 425,000 pounds. The 325 allowance in the time to 2028 might have increased to say 350. So you'll be paying 25,000 pounds tax less, but the government has held this. So you'll be paying more tax on the extra earnings that you get from that, or extra sort of proceeds you get from selling that, or inheriting that. So for those of us that have got decisions to make in that area, it's just worth noting that maybe now is the time to start thinking in those areas and find clever ways of maybe gifting this in advance, so they can because with inheritance tax, sometimes if you gift these assets, if the donor survives it by 7 years, there's no tax liability. So it's something to think about and plan early. But even so, if you start early, for each year that you survive the gift, they will taper it. They pay less tax. The beneficiary will pay less tax on that. So it's just what, if you were thinking about it, just to start giving that a bit more focus, because we're now 2022, so that's another 6 years, and property prices, although they're forecast to drop over the next couple of years, I think they'll still pick up at some point. The other point here is something that we all pay, council tax bills. So I think before, the increase could never go beyond 3% without it being subject to some form of referendum or whatever, I don't know. So now the government is giving councils the opportunity or the leeway to increase that by 2%. I think is the social care element of that they're using as an example. But if you imagine, if we all had to pay council tax if it goes up by 5%, it's nearly double. So if you imagine inflation on the tax element and now council tax going up, your pound is just worth less and less. If you own a business and you actually pay yourself a salary, and from the profits you pay yourself a dividend, now you used to be able to have an allowance that would actually mean that you don't pay the first 2,000 of your dividend. So let's say I paid myself dividend of 10,000, the net I will actually be paying is 8,000, because the government will say actually 2,000 pounds of that 10, it means you only pay tax on the 8. So that will be reduced by 50%, 2,000 pounds from April, and thereafter it'll actually be slashed to 500 pounds. So it'll be worth nothing in the end. So if you imagine you own a business, you're paying taxes already, this is another sort of bit that they take off your pockets for you. So just be mindful of that if you own a business and pay yourself dividend. And then, sorry, there's a capital gains tax story here. So the CGT here. So again, the allowance, you used to have like an allowance of 12,300. So let's say you sold a house, a property, and the gain that come out of it is called capital gains. So the gain you make out of selling that property, the government would say, okay, Clive, you made, let's say you made a £25,000 gain. We'll give you an allowance of 12,300. So you just pay the difference. You pay tax on the difference. So what the government has done is half that now. So Clive would now have to pay from April onwards. He'll only be allowed 6,000 out of that 20,000. So he pays an extra £6,000, an extra tax on the extra £6,000. So these are clever ways of indirectly increasing your tax, but it doesn't look like they have done it. So it's just clever. So they're just withholding these allowances and slashing them. So something to take note of. Now on the national living wage, I think this is for people age above 21 or 23. I stand to be corrected. They've been generous and decided to increase it by £1. Okay, so it's not even £1. It's from 9.50 to 10.42. So the sections of society that have faced challenges because they're on a minimum wage. Imagine with inflation being what it is, the government says your hourly rate will go up by £1. So it just means if you're doing it 8 hourly, you're probably getting £8 extra. So that's 8 times 5 is £40. That would not, it would not make any difference. But tokenism is what I call it, but it's what it is. So overall, this is where we stand with the autumn statement. Your income tax hasn't gone up in the headline figure, but your allowances have been frozen. Yeah, if you got inheritance tax liabilities again, that will change. Your council tax, look out for that. If you own your business as well, something will affect you there, and CGT as well. So these are the things that really, in a nutshell, will happen. The energy support plans. I think when we had the meeting with the MP, the Tory MP the other day, he was saying they were thinking about things, but the thing here is the government has decided to withhold it for another 12 months, I suspect, but it's only going up by £500 to 3,000. So that's what the autumn statement meant for our finances, really.
Amidou, just one observation before we move on, which is along the lines of if you mentioned income tax, but actually, if you're a pensioner and your pension, not so much your state pension, but your total pension pot is more than 12,000, of course, going to be paying tax. And of course, the threshold isn't going to be going up for you either. So you're still going to find yourself, if you're at the poorer end of that pension, I think it could be quite a lot, because just on the rate of inflation, you're really thinking that should have gone up by some £1,200
yes,
in April, and it's not going up at all. So it means that those people are going to be, well, we're all going to be losing out in the context of that.
Yeah, because I think they've touted the fact that they've maintained the triple lock, but I think not every pensioner, because effectively when you look at it, the pensioners, that triple lock goes up, but as you're saying, if it's taxable, you're losing out of that. So there's not much margin for you, and then your earnings, it's not like you can go out and walk or do anything. So you're trapped by your circumstances, effectively, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amidou.
Yes.
Did you mention? I know you talk about capital gains, but there's no capital gains on a sale of a residential home.
No, if it's your primary residence, fine.
No,
let's say your second home. Let's say you had an investment property.
If you've got a second home, there'll be capital gains. Yeah.
Yeah. If you, it's just anything but your primary residence. If you sell it, it'll be subject to CGT, because capital gains is the gains that you make from the increase in value. Yeah. Yeah.
And in addition, also, I know that you said 325, but if a person's if a person's married, and then it goes to their children, it's 325 plus 325 to be 650.
That's for a couple.
Yeah, that's for a couple. Yeah, if there's a single person, then it's 325. I just wanted to sort of. Yep. Okay.
So no, it's good to discuss this, but I think these are areas that, as a community, it's something to cite, because I normally hear people saying, "Oh, we've got to make a CGT payment," and with inheritance tax, actually, the way it works is they need the money up front. So it's very painful. Not the average person cannot afford these things. So with tax planning, and don't let the emotions get into it. Just look at really, do you want to let the government take something that you've worked so hard for, or do you want your family, or
Well,
it's something to think about, but I think we get caught out all the time on that.
Yeah, well, there's ways around. There are new ways in order to do things. Because I would just say to someone, take some money out now, because if you're taking out some sort of loan, you're reducing and you need the money. Take out the property, because you're going to reduce in any sort of inheritance tax or any capital gain. Yeah,
that's another option. But I would say they're tax advisors who are better than you and I on this. So they look at the overall.
They're not. I've seen them. Some of them are okay. Some of them are not very okay.
Well, that's where you look out for the right people. So the ones that know the ones that they know stuff, they would really, because it's about planning. It's not waiting. You're not reacting. You foresee things happening, then you get a plan, and that's how you execute it, and it works very well. And the other thing as well is you can have family trust as well, and they can last for 125 years. So there's so many things you can do, but it's just worth citing these things for certain generations in our community. They lose out a lot because they get caught out a lot of the time.
Well, we beg to differ on that.
Well, I know cases where I think if people had advice in advance, they could have done better. So that's my experience. Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you for that, though. It's good to really engage on that basis. Is there anything else that anybody want to touch on these aspects of the autumn statement? Okay, I think that to be no. So what I thought we'll do is really, I'm looking at it now. Really, I mean, I've assumed that no financial advisor can pull a rabbit out of a hat to make you really feel any better than the rest of us. If anybody does, then there must be one in a zillion in that case. So so what I thought we'll do is, I wanted to focus on really the pressing issue for the community, which is really and society at large, is with energy costs, because I know I work from home, and one of the theories we're saying at work, as where I work, is, the office will be filled up, because when the winter comes, nobody wants to stay at home because of the cost of really sustaining yourself working from home. So I wanted to focus my part of this talk really on energy, and then looking at ways where one can really mitigate the cost of really managing that side of things. And hopefully Angela as well can cite her sort of specialism and how we can help ourselves to really make that less painful. So I've looked at gas and electric being one of the big areas of spending in sort of most households. So, and I also think this will be going on for a while because of the way just things are. I think this will take more than 2 to 3 years to settle itself down. Although the forecast is that inflation will start coming down latter part of next year. I'll wait for that to happen before I believe in that. So I thought for now, we'll touch on energy, and maybe in the question and answer session, we can look at a few things as well. But Angela, I'd be really delighted if you can come in at some point once I've covered this area.
Indeed.
Thank you. So with energy, I'm looking at gas and electric. I'm just assuming that really you cannot do the obvious things with, like, go and buy energy efficient white goods. You cannot fit solar panels to your house in the immediate emergency now to do that, or you cannot really have your house insulated to the extent that it will make a big difference at the moment. So I'm just going on that basis that those of us that are in that position are very few, and you cannot really turn things around quickly enough because financially, not many people have that, if you like, financial capability at this point in time. So I'm looking at how we survive this winter, focusing on energy and where one can get help and how one can get help. And hopefully Angela will really bring in her expertise for us in there. And then after that, we can touch on other areas.
I'm going to give you a surprise.
All right, great one. Okay, that's what I like to hear. So with energy, I just want to touch on energy because it's a pressing bit, and we just, so I think there's certain basic housekeeping things that I'm just assuming most of us have done here. If not, if certain things apply to you, you feel like you could you could actually deploy those, because nobody's going to give you money to make a difference. So this is what you can do for yourself. And I start with the way we pay, because some of us have an inherent suspicion for direct debit payments because you feel you're not in control, which I perfectly understand. But in this case, I think it makes a difference. So if you imagine you're paying directly or you're paying by standing order, you probably have a disadvantage. So, and I use myself as an example. What I started doing is, once the gas bill and electricity bill went up, I watched when they recalculated my monthly payments, and I thought I must do something about it. And I started doing regular meter readings, and surprisingly, I can see the difference. So every month I take a reading and send it. So when they forecasted my consumption to now, it's significant. Like my account, I think when I looked last time, I got like £440 credit already. And I can see the difference, because I'm actually, by actually doing the readings, I'm saving myself money, but equally importantly, I'm in control. So the one way you take control over the direct debits is make sure you send regular monthly readings, and that would just put you in control. So I would urge anyone that is probably hesitant about that to try it and see, because you have every opportunity to cancel it if you feel it's not working. But it's a good way of making a dent on what is a big area of outgoings. I mentioned regular meter readings. I struggle to find my meter readings. In fact, they'll send me reminders saying you haven't read your meter. But now I put it in my diary. Day after the month end, I do the reading and just send it across. And when my bill comes, it reflects my readings, and I'm happy with it. So using myself as an example, I recommend anybody that's probably not that inclined to just make that one change, and you notice the difference in your finances. The questioning direct debit increases. I think if you start doing regular readings, you don't need to question it, because really you have the evidence to indicate that I want you to reflect what I've actually consumed in my direct debit, and that's what you want. There are other indirect sort of options there. Loft insulation. Again, we know if you have a poorly insulated house, a great deal of the heat generated would actually just dissipate. So it's really, it doesn't help. And also equally importantly, with prices this high, it's good to look at that and look at possible funding that one can benefit from that. I mean, servicing boilers regularly. Like, I service my boiler regularly, or we service, but I happen to be working with somebody who's a gas engineer, and he said to me, the boiler itself doesn't have many moving parts. What you need to do is just really make sure you bleed the radiators twice, and then knock them about. So if there's any things in them that's in there, they'll just drop. And if you bleed them twice fully and fill them up again, you're good to go. So he said to me, there's no need to pay money for somebody to come and service it unless the machine itself has got a problem, because he said there are no moving parts in them. So if you are physically able to do that, try it out, and you save yourself £100 and something, but also you just feel good enough to do that yourself. So he said to me, don't bother. And he's a certified gas trained engineer. So something to share with you. And then draft proofing, I think I linked that with insulation. So for example, we had our house insulated during COVID, because I think the local council, Hearts Council was, the government was offering some funding for that. And I can see the difference it's made significantly. I would not heat the house as I used to before, because you don't need to do it, and then it retains the heat for a lot longer. So draft proofing is just making sure that anywhere where heat can escape in the house, try and make sure you're on top of that to save it escaping, because if not, it's just going to cost you more. And look out for all this insulation. I think the government has set aside about £1 billion or more to fund that again. I spoke with the chap at Watford Borough Council that is responsible for it. In fact, I might try, with Clive's agreement, I'll try and see what I can get him to join us one day on all this initiative they've got, and maybe we can really benefit from that. But I spoke with him the other day saying, oh, there's this new deal coming on, and he said, yeah, but they're asking us to do a lot, but we're going to give it a go. So if you think it'll help you, I can bring him in. He can give a talk, and you can see how people can benefit from that. But I've found that very useful and financially better off for that. So, and that's where the energy efficiency grants come in. It's just like, look out. I think Watford Borough Council at the moment they're doing something on solar as well. So, and I know with solar, if you get it right, on average, they last over 20 years. So you get your money quickly. In fact, the forecast now is that you get your money in within 10 years, which is a good return. So if you have a means, or if you're considering it, I think Watford Borough Council have got this partnership with Solar Together or something. So if you need that, just let Clive know. I'll share the link with yourselves and you can apply because it's still ongoing. So that's where the energy efficiency grants come in. So none of us can actually tick all these boxes, but I think the more of it you can take, the less it will cost you when it comes to what you pay for cooking or for heating your house, for that matter. And the one thing they say is the things to avoid using is the hot water. Sort of, if you have an electrical hot water system, that actually is a big consumer. And if you have dryers as well, I tend to use a dryer, but I find that when I use electricity between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., it costs me a fraction of what it normally does. So I've modulated my behavior, even with the washing machine. I just tend to do it around those times, and other things that I have. So those are little things that if you can make a change in those areas, you'll notice a difference, because I've noticed my electricity bill is no longer what it was because of those changes. So if anybody is looking at those areas, there's things that you can consider as well. Does anybody have any tips on this area that we can share?
I'm coming with that in a minute.
Thank you.
Amidou, so what I think Angela is saying is finish what you're doing,
Okay.
and you'll come in later.
All right then, thank you. So any of the other participating members, anybody, any tips that we could share, or this is it?
I think what we'll do, Amidou, when we get into the conversation,
Cool.
we
Okay.
ask people, and I think what people might be able to do in the meantime is think in terms of any scenario, any challenges that you're aware of that either you or somebody that you know has, and see what it is by way of experience that we've got
Okay.
on the call, that
good.
where people may have encountered similar problems in the past and how those things have been dealt with. And just to say that we do have a chat function in there, so if people wanted to put a question in there, then please do. The only thing I did put in there, Amidou, myself, was about smart meters, because I know you read your meter regularly, and I try to do the same thing. I don't have a smart meter. I will probably have one in the future, but of course, if you do have one of those, then the meter reading is kind of there on a 24 hours a day available to the supplier.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, I mean, I tried to apply for one, and apparently when they came, they said, well, we need to do something to the cables in the house are too old, so I just left that. But I've seen people, I know of people that have it, and I can see it reading regularly, but it's actually good. We used to have one here, and you can see by using it, you know what to avoid using, because you can see how it impacts on the price you see in front of the dial. So I think that's a good habit to adopt as well, on top of reading your meter regularly.
Sorry, I also had one, Amidou. The reason why I gave it up, well, I didn't give it up, but actually there is a first generation smart meter, and you were required to stay with the same supplier. And
yes,
I wasn't prepared to stay to pay more just to keep a smart meter. So it's no longer smart. And they have suggested that they'll come and do another one, but my current supplier, I've said, unless you're going to install the second generation one, then I'm not having one.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. It's just not fit for purpose, the first generation one. So okay, so we'll expand now to really looking at mitigations. So next slide. So,
sorry, Amadi, I raised my hand before.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. I wanted to say that in terms of reducing energy costs,
Mm-hmm.
we've set up a lot of warm places
Right.
across the borough.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the community centers and libraries,
Right.
and some faith organizations and cafes
Mm-hmm.
are actually warm places.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the ways that people might benefit in this high cost of energy is if you're working from home, maybe you could consider going to work in one of those places.
Okay.
Because that way you save in electricity at home, in heating at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the places also offer coffee, and you have a chat, if for people that are maybe isolated.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also offer social interaction. So there's a list on the council website of those kind of places that you can access and keep warm rather than burning your own energy.
Thank you for that. That's good to know. Is that something we can have on our website, Clive? Can you have a link?
Tony has put a message in the chat where he's indicated that he has sent me some information, which if I have people's email address, I can circulate that to people on the call.
That's great.
I have it.
Well,
Yeah, but it's on the council website anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, thank you for that favor. I might try and seek solace in one of those places. It's just I imagine they have Wi-Fi's and everything for one to connect to. So
yeah,
okay.
like my church is setting it up now, and there's desk and Wi-Fi and everything there.
Oh, good.
And
Okay.
usually during the pandemic, people go there to work anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of places like that people can just take their laptop and go and work.
Oh, thank you.
The other thing to say, Amidou, it probably relates to another matter that you were raising earlier on. There used to be, for those people working from home, there used to be a tax benefit by way of, I think it was £6 a week that you could claim back against taxation.
Yes.
For working from home, but I believe that's actually ended, if I remember correctly.
No, it's still on. It's £125 a year, so it's still on. But what will he pay? Something.
when the taxman gives, he doesn't give. He just
he takes it back.
He just teases you. Because Clive,
Indeed.
it costs you more than £125 to just go through the rigmarole of doing that.
I'm telling you.
And what they need of you is like when the taxman is offering, I turn my face the other way because it's not an offer.
Yeah, it's there, but you pay it at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt when you look at the things in the statement that whatever is being given is being more than taken away from the other side.
Yeah, I think, but it's good to know that these things are there for people. It could make a marginal difference for some people, but I always think when the government is giving, they set so many conditions on you that you just don't, or some of us, it's just, I'd rather spend that time earning money rather than going after something like that because it's just painful. But I think it's good to cite these things. Some people will go after it because they're that inclined. So it's good to know. So shall I move on to the next section?
Yes, please do, because I'm conscious that we are over an hour.
Okay, thank you. So we're looking at just really other areas now. So this bit was about getting help. The first port of call really is your supplier. I mean, I think they all are aware of the challenges, so it's good to have a call with them. I remember I had one of my previous suppliers went bankrupt, so I tried to pay these people, and it was just the direct debit was bouncing back because they've closed the business. And then I think one of the companies came back to me saying, "Oh, you were not paying your bill." I said, "No. I tried 4 or 5 times, and the money came back." And I had the money, but I said to her, "Actually, no, I can't afford to pay it now. It might take me 3 years." And they just left a note saying, "I can't afford it. So do that by yourselves." But I just said, no, I had made every effort to settle my bill. What I wasn't aware of that these people closed their bank account. So I had done everything. And by the way, £300 will take me 3 years to pay it. So send me something and say, "Oh, I'll just leave a note that you can't afford it." And they never came back. So, but contact your supplier, let them know your situation, and just have a budget. Say, "This is what I can afford," because I think it's good. Don't let them impose something on you. Just see what gives you enough wiggle room to manage your finances, because they don't see what you see. from a financial point of view when you see your personal finance. So just before you go to them, have a plan. And then if they're generous enough to make it less than that and you feel it still works for you, then fine. But have a plan before you approach them rather than then let them impose something on you. And the citizens advice is there for direct advice, because they are on top of these things and they have up-to-date information, and they could help you craft a plan as well when it comes to your personal finances. So do not really turn your back on those options there. And then also, I'm not too sure where they can get different tariffs these days. I would not even go that far, but we talked about your direct debit. So if you were not in that sort of realm of payment, try and look at that. If anybody can offer you a tariff that's better than what you're on, then let us all know, because I don't think that's happening at the moment. And then I think also the suppliers have hardship funds. I don't know what the criteria is, so just be mindful of that. I'll go on their website, just check and look at the government websites and see how it works before you approach them. With all these things, do your research, be prepared. So when you go there, you have a solution prepared that works for you rather than being imposed on you. Because I mean, a lot of the time they'll say, oh, how much can you afford? And I'll just say a lot less than I can, so that, you know, if I'm good to pay it quickly, I'll do it, but I don't really push myself to the neck and struggle to make it. It's not about them, it's about you and your finances. So if you really are in dire straits and you need urgent help, as we said, Money Advice Service and the National Energy Action, I can make all this available and send it across so people can access either the website or the numbers. I'll send something to Clive, or if you feel we need to have a crib sheet with all this, I can do that as well and make it available for the community to use. Thank you. The next steps here is really, how do you get aid targeted at these two areas? So I've cited a few examples here, and hopefully, you know, this is where Angela can come to my rescue. So I've looked at 3 schemes really, which I think can benefit community members. So there's the cold weather payment that we all know. So this is really helping you pay for extra heating costs when it's very cold. And I think very cold means the temperature has to be below a certain range over a 7-day period. So if you imagine the cold spell of weather we had in the week, that's ended now because it's probably above 1 now. So it's just when it's consistently low at a set temperature, I don't know what it is, I can check that, which is then very cold over a 7-day period. Yeah. So households qualify, so it's for the household. And I was saying about the temperature, it's just like the temperature that needs to be recorded, okay, has to be 0 degrees or below for 7 days in a row. So I'm sure they've done their research. I know that seldom happens. So this is why they've just put that there. They're making it look like you can get something, but a lot of us will never qualify for that. So if it were 7 days on a row, so you stand to get 7 times £25 as a one-off, and you do not need to apply for that. I think the people that qualify just qualify. But again, remember the 7-day criteria and the temperature being 0 or below. So if on day 7 it goes above 0, the government wins, and the deserving lose. So that's how these things work. But the government is never generous when giving. So just be mindful of that. And the next other scheme, which I thought is the winter fuel allowance, and that really is age specific. Are we okay?
Oh dear.
Okay. So the winter fuel, Clive, were you talking earlier on?
I was just saying we're okay.
Okay, thank you. So the winter fuel, again, Angela can step in on this later on, as she said. This age specific, you must be born before September 26, 1955, and the payments range between, it's a maximum of 300, between 100 and 300. And it's actually for either gas or electric, and it's not subject to tax. So if you tick the first box, then I think the good thing about this one is it's not dependent on the temperature being below 0 for like so many days or a week at least. So yeah. And the final one, actually penultimate one, is fuel direct or third-party deductions. So this is something that really is arranged, that an amount of your unpaid bill to be paid by the company you owe each time your benefits are paid. So again, Angela will probably be better at informing on this one, but the payment will stop once you've paid back what you owe, sort of thing. So, Angela, I'm happy for you to really help me out of this one if you know more about it. The other bit that I thought would be applicable to some sections of the community, if you've been a veteran, so through the Royal British Legion, you can get assistance on your energy bills as well. So you can see that these things are targeted, they're limited, and they're not generous, but they're there, and I think they would serve some members of the community. So if you want further information on this, again, I can make information available. I can make with Angela. I can corroborate with Angela. We can have a crib sheet that will give you websites and numbers, and then you can just check on those. But I think this should not be discounted because not everybody has a means of meeting these bills fully. So it's good to make note of these things. Now, the next section was really to go on these two graphs, but I think I started with that because that's helped us set context. And really, I focused my effort on really the pressing issue, which is how do we survive the winter and the energy cost that goes with maintaining ourselves in these cold conditions. Angela, I was going to conclude at this point, and then I think this is where Angela can take us on the next level, assuming she's ready to share the nugget of information she has.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Do you want to stop sharing, Amidou?
Okay.
Okay. Over to you, Angela.
Right. Okay, fine. I think I'm going to start with out with energy, Amidou, because we're living in torrid times at the moment.
True.
Yeah, and I mean, I hope we'll get through it. I was elated a couple of days ago when I came across that the local authorities in not the whole of the country, but in Essex, Hertfordshire, Newcastle, and Greater London has teamed up with Warm Works, and there is now available a grant, and the grant would be to make your home energy efficient. Now, I can tell you that not only have I looked into it, but I have actually made the application and I had a visit from them. And they are going to, once you fall into that category, which is that your earnings are below 30,000, and there's some benefits that if you are on will also take you there. And so you would need to read it up because it's quite a long winding read up. However, they are going to fit whatever is necessary in the way of insulation, a foam insulation, underground insulation. They are even going to fit new doors. Even on the stairs, a large window that's there, that's going to be double glazed. And numerous, they're going to put in expel air fans, all sorts of things that they are going. I think it's value, it's like 10,000. I think I'm gonna do the best thing is that we will get together with this and be able to give you the telephone number and email addresses and whatever that you need to do. You can make the application online. It's not very difficult. It's about your name and address, and if you receive any benefit, your income, because of course it's below 30,000, and not many of us have an income of anything like 30,000. So it is really worth. They've done my assessment, and all I'm waiting for now is for them to come to tell me when they're going to start to do the work. So indeed, it's not a scam. It's true, very true. It's not a scam. You pay nothing. They're going to top up the insulation in the roof. So yeah, it is worth looking into. The other thing about heating, because that's going to take a big whack out of your income, is that age concern does not want, especially the elderly, to stay in the cold, and hypothermia gets in and then lives are lost. And what they recommend is that you keep yourself warm. If you're going to have a problem, as Amidou says, the first port of call is to the energy companies. And what you will do with the energy company, you can do that beforehand, pen and paper, set out what we call a means form, your income and your outgoing. And at the end of the day, you say, well, I'm normally paying £10, I can afford to pay you £15. You must remember that you will be in debt as time goes by. However, that is one of the way out that you can manage to survive, especially in the harsh weather. As you know, the elderly does feel the cold. The other thing I need to talk to you about is that debt, that there is priority and non-priority debt, and heating, gas, electricity, they are one of the priority debts, and that it is important that you contact the suppliers. It won't go away. And once you've negotiated with them, that becomes the order. If you fail on that, remember the whole amount due becomes payable. It can be done. Also remember, now that some of us have got our 500 or 600, and it will go into your bank account, that you can always ask the bank that, say, this money I do not want to be paid for anything else but towards my heating bill or whatever, and therefore that money is not to be, no other money is to be taken out of that to pay any other bills. If you have in the red with them, then you would need to sort that out with them. Now, food, which Amidou did speak about, which, yes, we all are seeing. I come away from the supermarket and come and check it because I swear they've made a mistake. They haven't. Now, we can get through this because we can turn hands with potatoes and cabbages and greens and whatever. The business of going and ordering meals, it's very expensive. Fish and chips is about £8 something a portion. And you see folks go in there and they buy for the whole family. You come out of there, 4 children, you and your wife, that's 7, 8 or £56. You can buy enough chicken to last you years, and vegetables. So it is something that we need to look on to, just to try and make things a bit easier. Now, prescriptions, and that's something I keep forgetting to say to you all about. If you're on a low income, you probably would be entitled to free prescription, dental, your fair hospital appointments, wigs, opticians, all that on the HC1 form. But that has to be filled out, and that can be get from your dentist, some chemists, the CAB, opticians. That form can be got from them. Now, Christmas is almost here, and you know that children, there's peer pressure, and my friend got this for Christmas, this one got this, and I would like this, and I would like that. I have to tell you that come January, that's when the CAB have a lot of people knocking on the door when the bills start coming in, because we have spent more than we actually have, more than we can afford to. So it is something that you can speak to children and explain to them. It's difficult for them to take it in, having sat in the court, the youth court, for over 28 years. It's very difficult because they feel their friend have this and they can't understand. But you've got to simplify it, and you've got to keep talking until the message gets home. Also, when we are talking about bank cards in these torrid times, there are arrangements that can be made with the bank that you can have whatever debt you have on credit cards, you can have that, it can have it done so that no further interest is added, and you then negotiate to pay a certain amount every month. Again, remember, if you fail, if you break that order, then of course the whole lot becomes payable and the interest then adds on to it. I cannot. Is there anything else that you would like me to talk? Oh, council tax bills, again, remember folks that if you're on a low income, you can apply to the local authority for a reduction in council tax. These things, they are there. There are things set up there for us. However, it's not going to come to you. You have to go and seek it. And the Citizen Advice Bureau is there, and they will assist you. Those who can't help themselves, they would assist you in getting these things. It's there. So please make use of it. It's torrid times. It's not going to go away. We have to cope with it. Amidou, is there anything else I haven't said?
No, you've actually covered a lot more. Thank you, because these are the little nuggets of information that I cannot bring forward, and participants need to probably be aware of. I think it'd be good to share experiences, because I think there's a need for us to have a crib sheet on who to contact on these things, and like Favour is saying, the warm shelters that we've got around, make it known, because the elderly community members probably need to be aware of that as well. And also any other self-help organizations there are here that can help people in their time of need, because it's not just one effort that solves all these problems. It's a collective of efforts that you make that really gets you traction and then gives you that space you need. So, I mean, you know, unless people think otherwise, I think it'd be good to have something that we can have on the WACA website and post on the community WhatsApp forum, so people can actually use that over the coming months.
Yeah, and at the CAB, there also are people who would do budgeting with clients, you know, to help them so that, you know, to get through this sort of what's going on today. So the help is there. If you don't ask, you won't get it. So you need to take yourself up, take your handbags and wallet up, and make yourself to the Citizen Advice Bureau for whatever assistance, whatever. If they can't help you, they would put you in the direction that you will get the help that you're seeking.
I think that's very informative, because I think what I certainly find, I know I go shopping and come back and complain to my wife saying, you wouldn't believe it. It's like I come back with less, or I you know, and I've had elderly friends who say, listen, I went to the supermarket and I had an experience that I cannot believe. And I have a friend who works in the supermarket, and they were recounting an experience where this person went into shop and they like went to buy set numbers of fruit or vegetable, and they started saying, oh, can you take 2 off? Can you take 1 off? And they were crying in the end, because they cannot believe how this is impacted on them. So we get affected differently. Yeah. And it's like budgeting helps, yes, but also is budgeting plus, I call it, because it's what other assistance you can get outside your financial constraints. Yeah. Which is why I thought we should focus on our efforts on the critical bits now, and as time goes on, we can revisit these things. But information we will make available. And also, please, if you feel that there's a need to refresh on these, or how you want us to really take it forward, we're happy. Angela and I and anybody else can come in. Budgeting as well. I'm an accountant. If you need like a template that you can help punch in your own time and do certain things on, let me know. Or if we need that, we can post that there and get you to really, you know, sometimes you need privacy with these things. If you need like an Excel sheet, you can punch numbers in and it gives you the bottom line. You play around with it. Let us know. I can do all those things and make it available so you can just work on it.
Yeah. And also remember the sick and disabled, there are benefits there that people do not take up. And again, you know, they if they do, they get the application, they try to fill it themselves and it doesn't work, and they get very sort of dismayed and they decide to leave it. The money is there for you. You've earned it. You've worked for it. You're second disabled. It's there. And it's times like these when, you know, we are in this sort of position that every little bit helps. So for goodness sake, you inquire whether you are the possibility that you're entitled to it, and go forward with it. And that would bring you some money. It doesn't count for anything. It certainly would help you to, you know, to be a little bit more comfortable, to eat better. And, you know, the things that you are not able to meet financially, that would help put you in that spot that you can. So it's there, and please, please make use of it.
Thank you. And on the budgeting front, sorry, I fixed the glitch with my camera, strangely enough. So, yeah. So, thank you. What I was going to say is just to say, really, for us here as a community, I know sometimes some of these things will cost people a lot, but if there's any, if you want to ask anonymously, and you go through somebody else that can approach Angela and I, or certainly if you like a spreadsheet, I can have a spreadsheet that actually I'll devise one and make it available so that we can just share it as a community. And if anybody want to approach me and say, well, how do I do these things with it? That's fine. But we just are here to help us go through what is a difficult patch for us, because I can see friends, family who are having challenges, and that's why we keep pushing to have this forum so that we can share, help, and just let you know you're not on your own on these things, because it's everybody that's affected. But when you keep quiet and you let things go to a point where it's irretrievable for us to be able to help you, then that's when it becomes. So be proactive, don't wait. And on the budgeting front as well, always try to give yourself a buffer. So if you're earning 10 quid and you are spending 8 quid and you left 2 quid, that's fine. But now that the cost of living is pushing that 8 quid, that's why you try and make sure you keep that 8 quid there, but it's what you do. I mean, if you're able to buy 8 pieces of chicken with that £8, maybe you can say to yourself, maybe I have to do with 6 now. It's just, yeah, it's those things you do, but don't say, oh, I'm going to push it and then see what happens, because believe me, with finances, it's one thing that only you can get yourself out of that when you get, so take it. Yeah. And it's not about pride, it's about being pragmatic as well. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, and of course, lots of us forgot about the garden, you know?
Yeah.
You forget about the garden. You don't have to have a big garden. You get a bag and you put the soil in and you put the potatoes and they will grow. The beans will grow, you know? Yeah, you go there, the lettuce will grow. You know, the tomatoes will grow.
Yeah.
And you can freeze things.
Yeah.
You know, you can freeze things. You all, you know, my people can do that. My people more than capable of doing that. I do it. I grow all sorts of things. Even tropical stuff will grow. You dig your fingers out. We can do this.
Thank you.
Even Christophine Chocho is growing now at the
Oh
bottom.
yes. Oh yes. Oh yes.
Yes.
We can do it.
And I think I'm going to next year, because what I used to pay £1 for, I paid £2.30 for it today.
But there you go. And in my case, I've invested in an allotment actually. So I'm looking forward to going out there and grafting, you know, after the winter, just to really take things the next step. But it's just practical measures like that will get you going, and you can do it. It's just the starting, really.
So Amidou, sorry, where have you got an allotment?
Is it Caroline?
All right, okay.
I
thought you were going to say Briar Road, because I wanted to get one there for years ago and wasn't able to get one.
No.
You can come and take mine, Clive, in Gaston Manor.
No. There's one in the Kingswood
yes
area.
Yeah, I've got in Gaston Manor, but just too busy.
It's only 5 minutes away from me, and I've been trying to get one in there for 30 years without success. But just
I'm sorry, Pearline, before I forgot, the grants for warm works ends on the your application must be made before the 31st of December.
Oh,
As
So,
usual.
yeah, so what I'm going to give you, let me give you the telephone number. It's a free phone number. It's 0808 196 8255.
Maybe you can put it on the chat. It might be easier.
Can you say that again?
It's 0808 196 8255. And it's a free phone number. And the web is www. One word, greenenergy.com.
www.greenenergy.com.
Yeah. And if you put in, if they look up Warm Works will tell you all about what they do. And they are kosher.
Pearline, you wanted to come in because there was a couple of points I wanted to.
No, it wasn't important.
Okay, so
I was just gonna say my husband always say you can't eat flowers.
I say that
You can.
some of them you can.
Some of them.
But I would now the only thing and I'm sure you would have heard me mention this before, Angela. Free dental care is all very well if you can find a dentist.
Uh-huh.
And I think and if anybody knows where there's an NHS dentist, I'm looking for one.
Yes, I know.
One that's taken people on.
Yes.
Well, you need to talk to me because
Yes. And the good thing about them, they do surgery as well. So yes.
Okay. So
did you know you could have more than one dentist?
No.
no, I didn't.
Yes.
Okay, so we're learning something, but actually, Angela, you got to send me that information because I need my dentist has kicked me off their system because unless I'm going private, which I don't necessarily want to pay £300 a year just for some checkups if I can avoid it.
No.
Okay.
No.
So my other point was is about kind of this issue. I think you've alluded to this, Angela. I think from my perspective, I think we also at a time like this need to think about, make a distinction between what is a need and what is a want. There are things that we need, like the roof over our heads and warmth during these things. But oh, who's that? Favor, can you go on mute? I think that might be you, please. So we don't need to be keeping up with the Joneses or whoever you might call them. We need to make sure that those basic needs that we have are being met. So just as an example, we don't need to go out and buy night trainers when we haven't got enough food around the table. So I think we do have to think about what is a need. And you made this point, Angela, about it's Christmas and maybe having to say to the children that they're not going to be able to get that iPod that they might be looking for because actually the money simply isn't there. So that we have to be realistic. Some of us have lived long enough to know when we had to do just that, and in order to survive, and we have to think about doing that again. That's what I would. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah,
I think it's difficult, especially with children, when they go to school and their friends say, you know, I have this, I had the iPad, iPhone, I had this and that. And yes, it's very difficult, but we have to try and get that message through. And, you know, it's a funny thing. My grandchildren, when they were smaller, I got a big container, that the rice plastic container. And anytime I open a bottle or I open a jar and there was a colored cap on it, I threw it in there. And they had all sorts of expensive toys. And guess what? They came through the door, they lift up the plastic container and threw everything out, and that's what they played with.
Yes, yes. And often you find that they are playing not with those expensive toys, but with very simple toys.
So we've got to think, because at the end of the day, as I say, come January, the CAB doors, they're bursting because there they come, letters in their hand, the bills have come through and they haven't got the money. So we need to think, we really do need to think. It's torrid times and we need to get through this. We can get through this.
And I think the other thing, Angela, you made mention of was cooking your own meals.
Oh, yes.
It's extraordinary having had to go to a restaurant once or twice recently, how much more expensive it is.
Absolutely.
It was always a luxurious option in any event, and it becomes even more luxurious with in the current time. It isn't a cheap sort of night out that you're going out on. And actually, if you are selective in your purchases, you can do significantly better, as you say, by cooking your own.
Indeed. There's no reason.
Sorry, Angela.
There's no reason why not. You can make nutritious meals without having the steak and all the big expensive cuts and doing the takeaway. There's no reason why you can't.
Yeah, indeed.
None.
Amidou, I'm just wondering whether there's anyone on here who's aware of anyone who's got any challenges financially that they're happy to share, so that we can just reflect on maybe some of the experiences that some of us have had in struggling. Because I know for a start, there's when my children were growing up, I mean, I could stretch to putting them in Clark shoes, but there was one pair of Clark shoes until they were due to have another one. Because of course their feet is growing all the time. They don't need 4 pair of shoes when they're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because in a few months' time they'll be, or at most a year, they're going to be needing a different one. But you do want to protect their feet, so you want to make sure that they're adequately, their shoes are adequate for the purpose, and that's the kind of thing that you have to be pragmatic about and be sensible about, making sure that you're protecting their well-being, and also potentially protecting your own financial well-being. So, Amidou, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
I think there are also options for fairly used uniforms these days, and they're really good options. Some of the charities, there's one charity in Meriden that collects and give out fairly used school uniforms. So those can be accessed. And some schools have started selling the PTAs, have started bringing out, almost new uniforms that you can, there's a time, my daughter did something I didn't like with her skirts, growing up girls. I insisted that she would use her pocket money to buy fairly used skirts. And we went to the PTA and we got really good quality skirts. So those are options, especially for those of us that have children that are still in schools, that we can explore to reduce our expense.
Indeed. Has anyone got any nuggets that they want to share with us then?
Yeah, Clive, it's Marilyn here. I've got just a couple. In terms of the food, first of all, apparently I haven't tried it. Someone was just telling me about it. If you go to Morrison's, and I know we do have at least one Morrison's, I think it's WD18 in Watford, and you ask for a Henry, what they will do is give you a free jacket potato meal. So that's one. So you just go in discreetly, say, I'd like a Henry, please, and they'll give you a hot meal. And also there's an app that I have been trying out. One of the residents told me about it this summer, called Too Good To Go. And what that is, and there's not enough restaurants on it at the moment in Watford, unfortunately. It's like Greg's and the bakeries. There is Crispy Dosa is on it, but I want to see a lot more people on it. But with the app, once it gets to their closing time, what they will do is sell what they call a magic bag of food. And you don't know what's in the bag. You can say if you want vegetarian or if you're happy to have meat. But let's just say, for example, the first time I did it at Greg's, I paid £3.50. They give you a bag of whatever there's left over in terms of, and I have to be honest, there was like 7 pasties in there and sandwiches and all sorts. And I just happened to meet a few people when I was out, and I was like, okay, come sit down, let's eat, let's have lunch. So it's different every time. With Crispy Dosa, I have tried that as well. And for £4.50, I had enough that would comfortably feed 2 people, maybe 3. So it's an app, you download it, but you get a time slot, you purchase online, you go to the place, you show them the reference number, and then they will hand over the magic bag. And I have to say, if there were more restaurants participating, it would be wonderful. But having tried it out over the last few weeks, I have to say it's been really good value.
And again, in support of that, there is these 7 days in every locations, so food bank, where it's not means tested. It is free. You can take your bag, go to these locations, and queue up, and it's 7 days a week within Watford.
Yeah. Some of them you need to get a chit from the CAB, depending which one in this area. You need some of them, you need to get a chit, and we sign that chit and stamp it, and off you go, noting how many is in the family and things like that, and off you go and get your food.
And
but I have had where I'm told you only get non-perishable things, you don't get any meat, so I'll go out and steal the meat.
Just to say though that some of those food banks, I'm aware of one where they have a waiting list, so you can't automatically, because the demand is such that they've But just something else that I'd seen, because I have to say I'm not precious about going to expensive shop to do my shopping. Actually, I am actually conscious about how I save money. And in Lidl, they have these £1.50 food baskets, which I bought on occasion. Often it's all gone, but actually, if you look at what they tend to have in it, it's actually worth a lot more than £1.50. And of course, for a balanced meal, those fruits and vegetables are also an important part of a diet that we need to have.
I think I've tried one of them before, and it's good value. So anybody that fancies trying it, as Clive said, I haven't seen them there for a long time, Clive. So maybe there are people that get there before us. So.
Before you, yes.
Well, there are some people who are conscious of their finances, and they're saying, well, let's get these things. The last time I bought one, it was earlier on in the day. So I think last time I was in there, I had a look, it was all gone. I
probably have to go in the morning.
More than likely, but of course, not all of us is necessarily available in the morning to do it. But if you can, then do that. I have also,
like the life of me, I can't get there.
The other thing is that if you are like me, somebody who know a little bit about food and their sort of longevity, you know that quite often the sort of a sell-by date that you have on things isn't necessarily reflective of whether or not it's suitable to buy or not. So for example, for example, I have gone into a Hasda, which is quite close to me, and they will have some things on sale. Now, I know whether something is actually good enough to buy or not. And if it's good enough to buy, just mangoes, for example, I'll go in there and look at a mango and I feel a mango, and actually I know whether that mango is going to last me 2 or 3 days before, even if I don't have to eat it straight away. And some of us, of course, wouldn't think about it. Well, it's reduced, so why would I want to buy it? Because actually, you want to buy it because actually it's still good food, and it's actually you're paying less than what you might otherwise pay. Of course, what you don't want to do is buy stuff that's rubbish and you're just going to have to throw it away. But there's good stuff that you can buy. So don't ignore those options too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I think common sense has to rule, and if you're going to get through this, you just have to use common sense about it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think there's a case to have like a little crib sheet of things that people will find useful outside this forum, and then we can then decide where we take things next. But I certainly think this is going to go on for a while, and
yeah,
it's just to really have things in place to help us survive it.
Can I ask, Tony's might still be on the line. Tony, you still on the line?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So I haven't looked at the information that you've sent me already. In terms of the question that Amidou is asking, would that substitute for a crib sheet if people got that, or are there some things that we've been talking about on this in this meeting that aren't covered by that information?
I think most of the discussions today, this evening, I mean, it's all those things is really highlighted in the one I've sent to you.
Okay.
And at the same time, there are more like those who may be facing mortgage arrears and all that, and the other grace that comes with it by meeting like either somebody from the Citizen Advice Bureau or Step Change, where you could have at least 2 months grace. And that 2 months period, you cannot repossess, they cannot do anything. They give you time to, within that 2 months, no payment, nothing of that nature. There are a lot of other things, support that is there, those are reflected in that, the extra support I sent to you. And the other one as well, areas where you could be supported, by, and most of this, like as the Chancellor just said, is reflected on the Watford Borough website as well. So let us find or to create time out of no time to sometimes go to the website and just go through, and there are other support that we could, that we may not be aware of, like those mothers as well, who has children of 0 to 4 years. There are other supports which is just that, vouchers, like a card, like a credit card that is usually sent to them as well, to be able to support. They could go to Asda, Sainsbury, or any of those, or Tesco, to do the shopping as well. And that goes a long way in helping as well, making life more meaningful as well. So.
Thank you. That's great.
I'm conscious that we were going to finish off at 8:30. So I don't know whether is there any question that people have or comment that people want to make that hasn't been made as yet, because it's now sort of 7 minutes before we're scheduled to finish. So anyone who hasn't spoken would like to say anything or ask a question?
Hi, Clive, it's Adre here. I don't know if you can get me clearly.
I can, yes.
Yeah, I think now, like never before, the power of coming together and just supporting each other as a community can be seen, because you know, when we started, we were talking about the group that I just started, and this investment group, we started it during COVID time, the very hard times. Who would have thought that, you know, anybody was thinking about starting an investment group at that time? But we took the bold step and we decided to start this group. And right now, you know, our worth is not much, but it's about £80,000. And I've just told you, I've been to Africa, and we've invested in a 10-acre piece of land. We had a choice of either investing in the UK or in Africa, but we thought, you know, charity begins at home. So we did that, and we are looking at other options. But that's only been achieved because we've come together as a group, and we've decided to, you know, put our efforts towards a targeted front. Now, we could do that to many other aspects in our life. Just come together and support each other. If you look at the fingers on your hands, they're not even, but they all perform a function and they all achieve because each one of them performs to its strength. So, you know, I would just like to encourage as a community, as Afro-Caribbean community, and as a community, there are those who, you know, don't earn that much, but there are those who are, you know, well privileged. Maybe this is the time we should look at the option of just evening, even if it's for a small period of time, and supporting each other. And if we hold together, I'm sure we are going to, you know, to rise above the storm, and we are going to help each other. So it's just a challenge that I'm throwing out there, and I've seen it work, because the investment group, not only is it an investment group, but we are also looking at the social welfare of each other and supporting each other. Whenever we feel one of our members is down, we try and lift them up as much as we can. I've also started another group, which is just solely a welfare group in terms of hardship, to support each other. We pull together when one of us is in dire stress. So this is just a challenge. You know, sometimes we can walk alone, but there are times when things are hard, when we need to come together and keep each other warm, and walk together and make sure that, you know, we weather the storm. So this is something that I'm just thinking, I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm just throwing it out there to everyone who's on the forum. If you know of any way we can do this and make sure that it's not abused, but it's actually genuinely supporting one of us, let's look at the options and put it on the table.
Thanks, Agri. As I said earlier on, before we started the formalities this evening, it's an excellent idea. Within Watford, we started something which you could call the beginnings of a savings group. And I think Pearlie, who was on the call, used to be a part of that. The problem that was encountered with that is that a lot of us were not sufficiently trusting to join together to build up that sort of momentum that you needed with that. I think the idea of this being an investment which will create a different kind of return is a step up from that idea, and it's an interesting one worth exploring. And if you can get a number of us that would be willing to do that, because it really is ultimately about self-help, I think that would be an excellent idea. So if anybody is interested in that idea, then let's continue that conversation. Pearline, you wanted to come in, did you?
No, I just wanted to say thanks to Amidou and to Angela and Favor for the Tony, the information that you've given. It's very valuable. I think the problem with some of us is why we don't get help is I don't want anybody to know my business, and pride has taken us down, way down the bottom. And so we don't get the help that is out there for us. We have some very knowledgeable people within our group who have knowledge, information, can and are willing to help. And I would personally say that they can guarantee whatever you say, it's strictly confidential. They're not going to get on WhatsApp and tell everybody what you discuss or what happened. So all I can say is that we should encourage one another that if we do need help and going through difficulties, don't just sit at home and with your hand on your cheek and, you know, and not seek help. It's there, and you can get help from within your own community, and valuable help.
Thanks, Pearline.
That's right.
I think, bear in mind what the time is, Amidou, and Angela, any final thoughts from you? Should we start with Angela first, and then we end with you?
No, go with Amidou first.
Okay, Amidou.
I just want to thank everyone for being.
Sorry, Tony wanted to come in first.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I just wanted to tell some of us this prostate cancer, you know, for some of us to try and check it out, and you know, the earlier the better you see a doctor regarding that, the better is for it, you know. So there's a campaign going on at the moment, especially among the Black 40 plus, the prostate cancer. So read more information about it as well. And, you know, it could be helpful to the earlier detection saves lives, really, you know.
Absolutely.
And also, Clyde, testicular cancer.
Okay.
I've just literally today, as you've mentioned, Tony, gone to sort out a blood test just to make sure that I am on top of what may or may not be happening as far as the prostate is concerned. And I think it's something that we do need to do. Thanks very much for that. We actually have some little leaflets that was, and I know Tony's got some others too, that's produced by this organization called ORCID, Fighting Male Cancer. And I think we have some of those which we can share with anyone who's interested. But coming back to this whole issue, Amidou, to conclude.
I think I just wanted to thank everyone for giving up their time on a Friday evening to listen to today's session, which I hope you got something out of. I think what it is just really to say, seek out if you need anything, we're here to help, but also if there's anything we haven't covered today that you think you want us to give some time to, I, together with Angela and other members of the group, will do some work on that and bring it over here. But what we want to say is, together we will achieve, and together we will thrive in the difficult circumstances we face. So thank you all.
Thanks, Amidou. Angela.
Right. I just, again, my people, I think we need to come forward. We are all one at the end of the day, and we're here to help one another in whichever way we possibly can. I have been committed, all my profession, everything goes towards helping people, and that's just part of me. If I can help, I will help. If I can't, I will try and lead you on to somewhere where you can get the help you need.
And thank you, Angela. On my part, I just realized I didn't mention my name at the very beginning for those who don't. My name is Clive Saunders. I'm the chair of the Watford African Caribbean Association. So thank you to Amidou and to Angela in particular. As far as those of you who have been a part of it, so those of you who will listen to this in due course, I hope you found it productive. On my part, Amidou's stolen my thunder. I normally end with "together we can achieve," but I'm going to end by saying that remember, we have actually paid our dues. We paid our taxes. Even the CAB is funded by the taxes that we paid. So don't ever feel in a way that you shouldn't be making use of these services that are there to support us at this particular time. As has been said, if you do have any issues or concerns, then do reach out. I have put in the chat the email address that you can email us at, and we will certainly communicate with Angela and with Amidou as need be. I know some people do contact us and would like to chat to Angela, and please do make use of that. Look after your well-being. Looking after your financial well-being is also part of doing that, because actually financial worries, not being able to sleep at night, causes stresses and strains, and ultimately impact on our physical and mental health. So don't ignore those issues. Deal with them as soon as possible so that we can keep well, and together we can all achieve. So thank you all for this evening. And if you've got any ideas about other things that we should explore, whether it's by way of health or finance or education or anything, then please contact us, and we'll look at what we can do going forward. So on behalf of the Watford African Caribbean Association, thank you all, and have a good rest of the evening.
You too.
Thank
Have a nice
you.
evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Susan, are you still with us, Susan? Amidou.
Amidou is gone.
Yeah, no, I'm closing the meeting down. Thank you all. The meeting is closed.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I need to stop the recording.